Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of this class. Can you believe we're already on week 4? This semester is just flying by. Okay, so today we're really going to add to our knowledge and add to our vocabulary uh, as we're talking about art. So think about where we started, where we really talked about what are the basics of art, where we looked at line, color, shape. Okay, and now we're going to, then we shifted there into creating some of our own art. And then last week looking at photo editing, still with those same principles of art that come into how do you set up a photo, how do you crop it, how do you, um, increase the color saturation. All of those things very much are connected together. And as we go into this week, those same themes, same vocabularies will continue. So this week is really an introduction more to graphic design work. Now, don't get overwhelmed with new vocabulary that you'll be seeing and new ideas because I think these are things that most of us have been, we have some awareness of. We just maybe don't have the exact vocabulary to use. So please again, just go back to thinking about we are learning about art. I am evaluating you on the fact that you are participating in this conversation through your discussion posts, and then at the end of this week, there will be an assignment that I'll talk about in more detail. But my purpose here is not to overwhelm you, but I do think this is interesting information as well as important information to know. Okay, so we are going to be really talking about this is one of the readings that you have for the week. It's going to go through again the about art, the vocabulary of art, and then it's really going to look a little bit more into graphic design. Now, the reason why this is important is because it expands on our knowledge that we know so far about art. But as we go through the next several weeks, you do need to know about graphic design and how do we put things together? How do we put flyers together? How do we put presentations together? How are we thinking about how objects and photos are in alignment or non-alignment with each other, etc. So this week is really key knowledge to then be working on over the next several weeks. Okay, so this is going through some of the vocabulary, and I'm going to go through this relatively fast because you have quite a few articles this week that you can be reading about these. But alignment is how things are aligned, right? So when you write an essay, you usually left align it. But when you are creating something digitally, you can maybe will center, maybe you left line some of it, maybe you right line some of it. There's a lot of different things you can play with alignment. Next week, you're going to do something with typography, which is creating your own fonts. And there's a lot of interesting things with alignments that happens with that. So proximity is how close are things together. Do you want to put all your pictures all squished together? Do you want to separate them out? And then the why of that. Why would you want them together? Why would you want to separate them out? I'm going to show you some examples of bad examples for the most part, because I like bad examples, but of some of these ideas of proximity. Repetition is that you use the same things over and over again, which sometimes it's a brand logo, for example, might be something that's repeated over and over again. Maybe, say if we're looking at a website, for example, you maybe will have up in the left-hand corner the logo of your company, and it'll be repeated over and over again. And there's reasons for that. Usually it means if something's repeated, usually means it's important, something you want to focus on. Okay. And then we've got contrast. So again, these um, different styles, different colors. How are they working together or not? And what is the meaning behind it? Now, every day when I drive anywhere, I pass by a restaurant that I cringe every time I pass by because they're in the area, so I won't mention my names, but their sign out in front is a big sign, okay? It's a plain white background, and then they have two rectangles on the plain white background that are in a baby blue, a very light baby blue. And then the name of the restaurant is in white cursive on that very, very light baby blue. The reason I cringe is you cannot see their name unless you are right up there next to their sign, and even then, it's very hard. Cursive, okay, we're going to talk more about this when we get into typography next week, and as we get through a variety of your graphic design more assignments that are coming up. But I would highly suggest that you don't use cursive in your designs. Okay, cursive is very hard to read. A lot of people, my generation, we skip cursive, learning cursive in the schools, and it is often hard to read, but it's also, there's some cultural things. People in other countries who are learning English, who are then coming to the United States, they are learning block letters. It is so much easier to read block letters than it is cursive. So if you were helping somebody with signage or website or whatever you're helping them with, or you're creating your own, you really do want to stay away from cursive. I mean, there are some times that it is used, but in general, you want to stay away from it because it is hard to read. But definitely white background, light baby blue rectangle on that background, and then their name in white cursive on top of that. It just looks like a white sign that has absolutely, there's not enough contrast to have it stand out. Now, if they wanted to have their name in white, why, I don't know. It should be in block letters, and it should be on like a dark blue background, or that the whole thing is dark blue and then you write with white. There's a lot of different things they can do with it. I have a friend who posts to Instagram all the time, who really, she's a therapist, and she's always posting relatively thoughtful stories and things like that. And but she really likes to use pastels on white, or a pastel background with another pastel. I don't know about you, but I have a very hard time reading yellow ink on, or yellow color on a white background. To the point, it has gotten to the point that I finally messaged her, and she said, "Oh, I didn't realize people couldn't see it." And it's like, yes, people cannot see your light pink cursive quote on another light pink, slightly one shade darker background. So these are some of these ideas about design. Now, like the restaurant that I pass every day, would they maybe have more people in their parking lot if you could see their signage a little bit better? I would say yes. I don't have the proof for that, but definitely you want people to know who you are. So those are some of the things this week. Graphic designs. You don't need to worry about all the different types of graphic designs. This article, this Design 101, is a relatively long article. Please just skim it. So here you can see our required readings this week. There'll be an overview of graphic design, fundamentals of design, looking at how different elements work together. There's quite a bit on composition and layout, because that is something very much that you need to know as we go through the next couple of weeks. But it's really looking at how do you lay things out, like this sign, for example. Don't design it that way. It talks a lot about the grids, again, which you got with photo editing, looking at scale. Okay, sorry. When you look at something, so I'm looking at this flyer here, okay? Again, you've done a lot of readings on this, but your eye will naturally go to what's in the middle, usually, unless there's other things. So you really want the most important piece, most important thing in the middle. When people read from a top-down approach, so we're going to read what's here, and then we're going to go down here. So you want your least important information to be here at the bottom. So these are some design things that you want to start looking at. Okay, balance, again. Here's some white space. White spaces, this is white space around here. On resumes, I do a lot of resumes, okay? Resumes need white space. People try to smush all their information in, and there's just, you can't read it. It's too messy. So you want to spread things out. White space, how much spacing between words, between letters, and that's typography that you'll do next week. Again, that rule of thirds that you learned in photo editing. Looking at design and things like that. Okay. Again, another one over. There are the recommended readings. I would highly suggest you look at them, because it talks about like what do you need to in order to create a flyer. So it's the practical application of these readings, and then a review again of the 7 elements of art. Okay, so that is the readings this week, and I want to really quickly go to our module. I'm going to show you our assignments. So we've got a discussion post, and then week 4. This is your assignment on Sunday. Okay, you're going to choose 3 examples to analyze in terms of graphic design. So maybe it's advertisements. So here I've got a link here to some print advertisements that you may want to be analyzing. billboards, flyers. You're welcome. If I was doing this assignment, I did this assignment, but if I was doing it more extensively, I would go take a picture of that awful restaurant sign and analyze it in terms of how, in contrast, it is not, there's not enough contrast to see it. Actually, ironically, a graphic design company that I drive by as well that also has an awful sign for a lot of different reasons. It's got way too much stuff going on, so your eye has no idea where to look because there's no middle part. It's like everything is out to the side. So there's you can easily take pictures of that. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose 3, and for each one of the examples, you are going to choose 2 of the elements of art, and I listed them here that I talked about in the readings: line, shape, color, topography, texture, size, or space. And then you're going to analyze whatever you've chosen in 1 to 2 sentences about whichever 2 you've chosen. And then you're going to analyze each one using 2 of the principles of design. Those were talked about in the readings this week. So like balance, alignment, proximity, repetition, hierarchy, and contrast. And again, provide 1 to 2 sentences about how you see each element represented in the example. So if you're like, what does she want me to do? I'm going to give you an example. This is a menu I pulled off from online. I googled bad menus, and voila, we have a bad one here, right? And if you look at it, I mean, I think if you were called in to be a graphic design consult on this menu, there's some pretty overwhelming. The whole thing's overwhelming, but there's weird colors. Why are some of the menu in these various colors? I thought at first they were all different sections, but that's not necessarily the case. This whole thing's in green background. Why? Somebody had fun here making this, but it's a bad example. We've got these random pictures that could have been edited a little bit better. Like looks like some brown stuff. Anyway, you can't see anything, colors, there's no alignment going on. This is truly an awful menu. So if I was analyzing it, I would have, okay, so here's space. I chose space and color. So I'd analyze it in terms of the lack of space is a huge issue on this menu. Your eye doesn't know where to focus as there are too many words switched together. It's important to use space to separate out important information and less important information. This menu fails at creating any space between words, categories, and pictures. It really does. How do you have any idea? Then looking at color, again, too many colors. There's no reason for these many colors. There's no, nothing. Okay? And so here's my things why it's hard to read. Some things are in black ink, some are not. So then my next one is I looked at hierarchy and I looked at balance. So hierarchy is like, what do you put first? What do you put in the middle? Where do you want your eye to go? There is no hierarchy on this. Like nameplate sandwiches are here next to lunch trays, next to sandwiches, next to more sandwiches, next to soups. Oh my goodness, there's nowhere to go. So there's a major issue of hierarchy. What's the most important information you don't know? And then balance. There's a major balance issue as well, right? Because if you look at the grid approach, there looks like there was some thought put to, well, let's try to have different sections, but then the different colors are not in different sections, and like this whole thing in the middle. Who knows? This is an awful example. Like, actually makes my eyes are kind of funny. So then I talk about balance, how there is no balance of space, hierarchy, text sizes, or colors. It's all mixed together, and the issues with that. So I wanted to give you an example of this so that you know what you're doing. You're choosing 3. So this is a little bit bigger of assignment. It is worth 45 points, 15 points each. But I do want you to put the link, screenshot, whatever, so I can see it, and then analyze it with 2 of these elements. And to support that, you have the readings. So please let me know if there's any concerns, questions. But this, like I said, this week is really going to help establish the next several weeks as we start looking more into this graphic design and how do we design things with the visual part that we've been working on up to this point. Thanks so much, everyone.